Hello, everyone, and welcome. You're watching the EDC international coverage of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Ken Cruz, coming to you from Fort Washington, Maryland. Tonight, we have live updates from several of our correspondents here in the U.S., in Canada, and in Latin America. Thomas Likeness, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Elective surgeries resume in Alberta.
Janica Era Peralta from Medellin, Colombia, will report industrial and tourism sectors in Colombia to resume after COVID-19 quarantine. May Davila from Ciudad de Panama, Panama.
Panama announces a 30% to 50% discount on electricity bills.
Armelin Ramos, Washington, D.C.
Trump on COVID-19 vaccine availability.
Mayanne Manzano Guerzon, New Jersey.
Multi-state agreement for PPE medical equipment supply chain is announced.
Melissa Potes, Orlando, Florida.
Phase 1 of Governor Ron DeSantis' recovery plan in Florida began Monday.
Pearl Rogacion, North Hills, California.
LA County Department of Mental Health partners with Headspace, offering free subscriptions to access sleep, movement exercises, and wellness courses.
Rachel Martin, South San Francisco, California.
The San Francisco Bay Area counties begin phase 2 of reopening California.
Plus, learn another way to make red velvet crinkle cookies. But first, an overview of how the world looks now. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University and Medicine, as of 5 p.m. Eastern Monday, May the 4th, 2020, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 3,500,000. This includes more than 1,100,000 in the U.S. and more than 61,000 in Canada. Sadly, this virus has claimed more than 250,000 lives worldwide. This number includes more than 68,000 deaths in the U.S. and more than 3,900 in Canada. After the break, we'll hear from our correspondents. Eagle News will return shortly.
Magtatagumpay tayo, salamat. Kung mag-fail tayo, salamat. Ang importante po, sinubukan natin, ginawa natin yung makakaya natin.
Napatunayan ko na yung talent na binigay sa akin ng Diyos, mas may expose pa. Kaya sa mga ibang artist dyan, lalo na sa mga may kapansanan din, mag-explore pa tayo ng ibang bagay tulad nito. Huwag tayong magtago, huwag tayong mahihiya. Gawin natin kung ano yung gusto talaga nating gawin.
This program is presented by SMC Infrastructure, building a better world. Sanmig Sugar-Free White Coffee, puno ng white coffee taste without the sugar, kaya lower calories. Try mo na, Sanmig Sugar-Free White Coffee. Sarap ng white coffee, now sugar-free. Vet-approved Nutri-Chunks, the only premium dog food with active boost for optimum energy and prebiotics that help strengthen immunity. Just like Catherine Bernardo, gawing listo ganado ang fur babies nyo. Listo ganado sa Nutri-Chunks. Co-presented by Kubert, expert in air conditioning and electromechanical. Also engaged in structural, electrical, fire protection, plumbing, and sanitary services. Kubert, your ultimate MEPS and air conditioning solutions. Vita Herbs Philippines Green Coffee, masarap, mabango, at healthy pa. Canrib Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. New San Jose Builders Incorporated. Unlad Incorporated International, fight against global poverty. In participation with Rain or Shine Elastomeric Waterproofing Paint, color for protection for your home. Matimco. Matimco is wood. Wood is Matimco. R Square Variables Incorporated, your trusted UPS supplier and UPS maintenance provider in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. CompuZell Computer Services, ID card and lanyard manufacturer. Saisho International Trading Corporation. DN Steel. EMAC UPVC Roof Corporation.
Hey, Gretchen Ho here, and I'm a white coffee lover. Creamy kasi, and very yummy. Pero mas masarap kung hindi nakaka-guilty. Check my new discovery, Sandmake Sugar-Free White Coffee. Puno ng white coffee taste without the sugar, kaya lower calories. Try mo na! Sandmake Sugar-Free White Coffee. Sarap ng white coffee, now sugar-free.
The successful development of TPLEX, or Tarlac-Pangasinan-La Union Expressway in 2009, a 4-lane toll road that extends from Tarlac City to Rosario, La Union, with an additional approved extension of 56 kilometers all the way to San Juan, La Union. This is expected to reduce travel time to Baguio and other provinces in northern Luzon. Realizing the vision of creating a better world for Filipinos fueled the team's focus.
Listo at ganado ang baby ko sa vet-approved Nutri-Chunks with active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real meat, with essential nutrients to help them grow healthy and happy. Listo, ganado sa Nutri-Chunks.
Welcome back. You're watching Eagle News. I'm Ken Cruz in Fort Washington. Elective surgeries resume in Alberta. Eagle News correspondent Thomas Likeness with that news.
Well, Ken, you know, Alberta surgeons are going to be busy as they deal with a backlog of cases. These were put on hold because, of course, of the COVID-19 pandemic. The provincial government is lifting some of the restrictions now on non-urgent day surgeries only right now, and only in regions with a hospital and clinic capacity and the low rate of COVID-19 infections doesn't present a significant risk. Now, a carefully controlled and phased approach is going to be used. The most urgent patients will be taken first, and as well as those who have been on the waiting list the longest. The first priority will be to treat patients who would be at highest risk if their surgery was any further delayed. And Alberta Health Minister Tyler Shandro says the surgeries will continue only as long as the COVID-19 threat remains low.
I have heard stories of discrimination against newcomer families, with assumptions being made that any workers at Cargill and JBS and their families are a risk to others. People who are cases or close contacts will be supported by public health to self-isolate, but this is not required of all employees or families. When people are stigmatized or targeted, it blocks our collective ability to control the spread, as people may fear getting tested or talking to public health. We should be supporting people who are in this situation, not stigmatizing them.
That was, in fact, our Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Dina Hinshaw, explaining why workers in meat processing plants who have been infected with COVID-19 shouldn't be stigmatized. And I want to update you on that story right now about that large meat processing plant in High River. It reopened today. As you recall, yesterday I told you that the union representing workers was trying to have a stop work order put in place so that that plant would remain closed. It has been closed for the last 14 days. Now, the situation there was that over roughly half the workforce tested positive for COVID-19. Most of them have recovered, but the union says workers are afraid to go back to work. They're fearful that the plant just isn't safe. Cargill has insisted they put in the necessary safe work procedures, the necessary barriers. They have the necessary personal protective equipment to keep workers safe. The union says it's investigating other legal actions. And as Dr. Dina Hinshaw said, people working at these plants shouldn't be stereotyped. Now, because of the uncertainty of all of this, Some grocery stores in the province are putting limits on the amount of meat that a person can buy each time they go shopping. We can't give you specifics on just how much they're being restricted to, but that updates you on the situation in the High River plant. There is another plant in southern Alberta as well. Between those two plants, that's 70% of the beef output for all of Canada. So having a shutdown or even a cutback in production really affects the meat supply in this country. For all of you, I wish you good health. Take care of others. Take care of yourselves. Stay home, stay safe, and stay tuned to Eagle News for accurate and balanced coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Tom, thanks. Regarding your headline report, what are the chances that resuming elective surgeries at this time would overwhelm the hospital staff?
Well, I don't think there's much of a chance of that at all. Right now, there are only 89 people in hospital in all of the province. Our province has a population of about 3.5 million. 89 people are in hospital being treated for COVID-19, and only 21 of those are in intensive care units. So I don't think there'll be a problem with COVID-19, at least at this point, overwhelming our hospital system.
Interesting. So how about regarding the meat processing plants? That's a huge statistic regarding your economy. It's 70% of the output, right? So which means that a good portion of the Alberta economy relies on the meat and processing plants.
Well, actually, Ken, that's 70%. That's 70% of the country's meat supply.
Correct.
For beef. So yeah, it's huge, and if it continued on for a long period of time, certainly there could be shortages. I don't think we'd get to the point where we run out of meat, but you're just not going to get that grade A steak that you wanted. You might have to settle for short ribs or stewing meat or something like that.
I mean, I'm okay with that. But in regards to what do you feel your government is prioritizing? Health of the people or health of the economy in Alberta?
In Alberta, I would definitely say health of the people. We've had some pretty strict restrictions. They're easing off very, very slowly. Dr. Hinshaw, who we've had on the program many times, has been very clear. We don't want to do this too fast. Our premier has been very clear. He does not want to have to go through another lockdown in the fall because we get a second wave of COVID-19. Our economy is hurting enough now. It was hurting before the pandemic. We simply can't go through another partial shutdown.
Understood. Appreciate the news. Appreciate the feedback. Thank you, Tom.
Always a pleasure to be here, Ken.
Panama announces a 30 to 50% discount on electricity rate. With us is Eagle News correspondent May de Villa in Ciudad de Panama for the report.
Hello, Ken. The president of Panama, Laurentino Cortizo, announced that from the bill last April, there will be a decrease of between 30% and 50% in the electricity distribution rate for more than 1 million customers as a palliative and solidarity measure for Panamanians in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. The measure will grant a 50% reduction in electricity rate to customers who consume from 0 to 300 kilowatt-hour, while a 30% decrease in the rate will be granted to those who consume 301 kilowatt-hour to 1,000 kilowatt-hour as part of the subsidy assumed by the government. This is guaranteed for 3 months, starting April 2020 to June 2020. The president also assured that energy distribution companies will stop all action to suspend electric power services to customers for the duration of the national state of emergency decreed because of the COVID-19 crisis. The president said he has instructed the administrator of the Public Services Authority or Autoridad de los Servicios Públicos, Armando Fuentes Rodriguez, to order energy companies to thoroughly review all the electric energy bills of their clients corresponding to last March. His announcement came amid complaints of consumers in different social media platforms about alleged indiscriminate increases during this crisis. Desde Ciudad de Panama, May Davila, Eagle News, vivimos en tiempos interesantes.
Gracias, Ming. So regarding an example of this discount for a family of 5, could you give us an idea of how much the savings would be for an electricity bill?
The discount will apply for the electricity distribution rate only. And because of the situation here right now, we haven't received yet our bill, the physical bill, or the bill through our email. So we have no idea yet how much our discount for this month will be. But we are hoping it will be a significant decrease in our electricity bill for this month, because we will be needing the savings for a family of 5.
Oh, I'm sure the general public will take any discount they can get.
Yeah.
Appreciate the help, Ming. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
President Donald Trump's response on when a COVID-19 vaccine will be available. In Washington, D.C., we have Imelin Ramos with the details.
Thank you, Ken. With the increasing number of cases and deaths in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, everyone is hoping that we find a vaccine to COVID-19. These are the latest statistics. Washington, D.C. has 5,107 positive cases and 258 deaths. Maryland has 26,408 cases and 1,216 lives lost. Virginia has 19,492 cases and 684 deaths. But where are we right now with the vaccine? President Trump said yesterday that the United States will have a vaccine by the end of this year. He said, as I quote, "We are very confident that we're going to have a vaccine at the end of the year, by the end of the year." Is that possible? What does Dr. Anthony Fauci, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, have to say about that? Last week, in an interview he gave with Savannah Guthrie on the Today Show, he said, "We want to go quickly, but we want to make sure it's safe and effective." He also said in an interview that back in January, he was saying that it would maybe take a year to 18 months to develop a vaccine. So it's possible that a vaccine can be developed by January. That's actually not too far from what President Trump was predicting. According to an article published in BBC.com, there are about 80 groups around the world that are researching vaccines. Estimates for experts range from 12 to 18 months. The Washington Post stated in an article online that there were at least 115 vaccine projects that are ongoing. And so the race for the vaccine continues. The average person probably doesn't care which country gets the vaccine first, but whichever country does create a viable vaccine, we hope that this would be easily distributed and shared around the world. Since a vaccine might take time, effective treatments are also being created and tested. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration recently issued an emergency use authorization for an experimental drug for emergency use for the treatment of hospitalized COVID-19 patients. According to the AFP, the experimental drug remdesivir, an antiviral drug initially developed to treat Ebola, was given the green light on Friday after a major trial found that it boosted recovery in serious COVID-19 patients. In reference to this news, President Trump was quoted last Friday as saying, "It's really a very promising situation." So Dr. Anthony Fauci has this statement regarding remdesivir. Let's listen to this.
That the data shows that remdesivir has a clear-cut, significant, positive effect in diminishing the time to recovery. We think it's really opening the door to the fact that we now have the capability of treating, and I can guarantee you, as more people, more companies, more investigators get involved, it's going to get better and better.
Well, let's hope that this is really what we are looking for as a treatment for COVID-19. The DMV or Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia have not lifted their stay-at-home orders yet. but they've already put plans for reopening their economy. Effective treatments would be great, and so would a viable vaccine. But until then, continue to listen to the instructions and guidelines of your local government and health authorities, and please continue to remain vigilant. In Washington, D.C., I'm Malin Ramos, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Ken.
Thanks, Evelyn. So, based on your research, which country do you think is closest to finding that vaccine?
Yes, you know, Ken, we just watched this movie Contagion over the weekend. It's a 2011 movie, and they were rushing to find a vaccine too. I don't want to spoil what happened, so you have to watch it for yourself. But from the research that I've done, it has been reported that Oxford University in the United Kingdom might have a viable vaccine by the fall.
Oh, that's great news, and also great recommendation on a movie. I've watched it myself. Thanks, Evelyn.
Thank you, Ken.
New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts announced joint multi-state agreement to develop regional supply chain for PPE and medical equipment. Eagle News correspondent Mayanne Guerzon in Sigreville reports.
Thank you, Ken. Let's begin with New Jersey's latest numbers of COVID-19 cases. Total number of New Jerseyans tested positive, 128,269. New positive cases reported today, 1,621. New deaths is 45, and New Jersey's total fatalities is 7,910. New Jersey still is a hotspot, being the second state in the U.S. with the most number of COVID-19 cases after the state of New York. Now on to the headline. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf, Delaware Governor John Carney, Rhode Island Governor Gina Raimondo, and Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker announced a joint multi-state agreement to develop a regional supply chain for personal protective equipment, or PPE, and other medical equipment and testing. As these states continue to partner with the federal government during this coronavirus pandemic, they will also work together to identify the entire region's needs for these medical products, the aggregate demand among the states, and to reduce cost and stabilize the supply chain. The states will then seek to identify suppliers within the country, region, or state who can scale to meet the demand of the entire region over the next 3 months. The goal of this joint agreement is to decrease the potential for disruption in the supply chain for PPE and medical equipment, including sanitizer and ventilators, and testing, and promote regional economic development. Our states should never be in a position where we are actively competing against each other for life-saving resources, Governor Murphy said. By working together across the region, we can obtain critical supplies as we begin the process to restart our economies, while also saving money for our taxpayers. This concept is at the heart of the regional approach we have established. Also, New York Governor Cuomo said, the COVID-19 pandemic created a mad scramble for medical equipment across the entire nation. There was competition among states, private entities, and the federal government, and we were driving up the prices of these critical resources. As a state and as a nation, we cannot go through that again. We are going to form a regional state purchasing consortium with our 7 Northeast partner states to increase our market power when we're buying supplies and help us actually get the equipment at a better price. I want to thank our neighboring states for their ongoing support, generosity, and regional coordination on these important efforts. Also, Connecticut Governor Lamont said, with global supply chains continuing to experience a major disruption due to the pandemic, combining the efforts of our states into a regional purchasing initiative will help our states obtain needed PPE and other medical equipment without competing against each other. I have long been advocating for the federal government to get involved because pitting all 50 states against each other to compete for these supplies has never made any sense. Partnering with our neighbors helps make our purchasing power stronger and more dependable. In Sicklerville, New Jersey, May and Manzano Garzon, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
So, Mayan, aside from developing the region's supply chain for PPE and medical equipment, is there like another goal that the region is looking to reach for the joint multi-state agreement?
Yes, Ken, aside from this regional supply chain, the states are also discussing how to collectively explore emerging technologies to take advantage of the potential alternative methods of production for existing products and innovation. An example of which is 3D printers that may represent an attractive and less expensive alternative to manufacturing certain PPE and medical products. Ken?
I understand. So, I mean, at the end of the day, increased volume equals increased buying power. So, appreciate that, man.
Thank you.
Phase 1 of Governor Ron DeSantis' recovery plan for Florida began Monday. In Florida, we have Melissa Potes with details.
Thanks, Ken. As of Monday afternoon, there are more than 36,000 positive cases of COVID-19 in Florida. Of 444,270 individuals tested, majority of these are negative, with only 9% of individuals testing positive. However, the Department of Health reported 20 new deaths on Monday as Phase 1 of Governor Ron DeSantis' reopening plan for the state began. Approximately a month after initial stay-at-home orders were placed by the governor, Phase 1 of 3 began on May 4th for majority of the state. Exception to this is in South Florida, where restrictions will continue to be enforced, as this area is still considered a hotspot, with more than 59% of all cases in the state. The biggest changes with the start of Phase 1 include resumption of elective surgeries. Restaurants will open for dine-in services, however at 25% of indoor capacity. Outdoor seating is permitted as long as 6 feet of distance is maintained. Restaurants are required to have hand sanitizer available at every table, and servers are to wear face coverings. Retail stores can open at 25% capacity. Gyms, personal services, and bars remain closed, as do movie theaters and sports arenas. Schools will be closed for the remainder of this school year with distance learning in place. And the last day for most Central Florida schools is May 27th. Visits to nursing homes and long-term care facilities are still prohibited. When individuals are out, CDC guidelines should still be followed, including social distancing in public, avoiding groups of 10 or more people, and wearing a face covering when this is not feasible. Along with the start of Phase 1, Monday also marked the opening of state parks and beaches. According to the Department of Environmental Protection, out of 175 state parks, 80 parks and trails within the state were, quote, reopened for day use with limited risk to visitors and staff, end quote. This weekend also saw the opening of many beaches along both the eastern and western coasts of the state. According to a statement by DeSantis, quote, opening the parks back up is consistent with my safe, smart, step-by-step plan to reopen Florida, end quote. When asked when Phase 2 and 3 would begin, DeSantis stated, quote, each phase we're thinking about weeks, not thinking about months, end quote. Not mentioned in the plan were how and when to reopen the various theme parks in the area. As of today, Walt Disney World, Universal Studios, SeaWorld, and Legoland remain closed. While Monday was the start of Phase 1 of Florida's recovery plan, it also marks the start of Teachers Appreciation Week. I would just like to say thank you to all the teachers that work so diligently to help nurture and guide our children. Distance learning in place, I've grown a deeper appreciation for everything teachers do. In Orlando, Florida, Melissa Potes, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Ken.
Thanks, Melissa. So, with the opening of the restaurants, beaches, state parks there in Florida, is your family willing to venture out of the bunker?
Well, we've actually went out to a trail this past Saturday, went biking down the West Orange Trail. It's a beautiful trail here in Florida. But there were a lot of people out. So I questioned myself, like, should we still be out? But, I feel like being outdoors is different than going into a restaurant where people are confined to one space. If we're outside and we can still social distance ourselves, I think it's okay for us to be there. Will we be running to the beaches and to all of the other parks with large numbers of people? No, we won't be. We'll still be in our little safe zone.
Do you feel that, like, you know, now that with all this that's happened, that, I mean, you just have like that mental, you have that mindset that I got to stay away from people, I got to keep my family away from someone? I mean, is that something that you think is going to remain for a long time now, or is it just for the time being?
I think we all just need to take the precautions that are going to be safest for our families. You know, I think it's going to always be in the back of your mind, especially as a parent. When I have to take care of, you know, my 3 children, make sure my husband's safe. But then also, if I go back to work, having to treat my patients. So I'm always thinking in the back of my mind that, you know, what's going to be safest for all of us? Will it be once there's a vaccine in place? But I know for right now, we received a survey about going back to school, and one of the questions was, do you think you would feel comfortable sending your kids back to school, you know, tomorrow, in the summer, or, you know, you needed more information? And I checked off, I needed more information.
Oh no, it's like, I need them to go back to school yesterday. No, I'm just kidding. So it's obviously it's May the 4th. It's Star Wars Day, so I know there's that much anticipated question of when will Disney World open? Do you know?
Well, they haven't said specifically. I did read an article recently saying that they were going to open once the threat of the virus had decreased significantly. But they do have some plans in place. One of those is opening the park in 2 phases. The first phase would be opening to the park to 50% capacity, and then the second phase would be opening it to 75% capacity. In opening the parks as well, they would have hand sanitizers at the entrance and exit of every attraction, as well as marks for social distancing, you know, 6 feet apart, to make sure when you're waiting in line that you're safely distanced from the other people that are there as well. But they have not set a specific date as to when they were going to reopen.
Yeah, I mean, the lines were long already, and I can only imagine how much longer the lines are. I mean, Costco and Target look like Disney World, Disneyland right now. So, I mean, I think it's like just a preview, right? But I appreciate the help. Thank you so much for the updates, Melissa.
Thank you.
When we come back, more live updates from our Eagle News correspondents. We'll return shortly. Stay with us.
COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a new coronavirus introduced to humans for the first time. It is spread from person to person, mainly through the droplets produced when an infected person speaks, coughs, or sneezes. These droplets can land in the mouths or noses of people who are nearby. These droplets are too heavy to travel far in the air. They only travel approximately 1 meter and quickly settle on surfaces. This is the reason person-to-person spread is happening mainly between close contacts. The exact time that the virus can survive on surfaces is not yet known. So it is wise to clean surfaces regularly, particularly in the vicinity of people infected with COVID-19. Hands touch many surfaces, which can be contaminated with the virus. You should therefore avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth, since contaminated hands can transfer the virus from the surface to yourself. When coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth and nose with the bend of your elbow or use a disposable tissue. If a tissue is used, discard it immediately into a closed bin. The most effective way to prevent the spread of the new coronavirus is to clean your hands frequently with an alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. This will eliminate the virus if it is on your hands. Stay healthy and prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Basta't Pilipino, tiyak na may angking galing at talento. Panoorin ang paligsahan at pagalingan ng mga kababayan natin sa larangan ng pagkanta, pagsayaw at iba pang talento dito sa Tagisan ng Galing. Mag-uumpisa na sa May 9 at 10, 2020, Sabado at Linggo sa Net25. Keep safe mga kababayan at stay at home. Watch Tagisan ng Galing!
Welcome back. You're watching Eagle News. I'm Ken Cruz here in Fort Washington. The Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health partners with Headspace, offering free subscriptions to access sleep, movement exercises, and wellness courses. Eagle News correspondent Pearl Rogacion in North Hills with the details.
Thank you, Ken. As of today, COVID-19 cases continue to rise in California with a total of 55,658 confirmed cases with 1,257 deaths. In Los Angeles County, 568 new confirmed cases and 28 new deaths have been reported, bringing the total to 26,217 cases with 1,256 deaths. With this worsening crisis that is greatly affecting the health, well-being, and financial stability for many people, another aspect that should be overlooked is one's mental health. The feeling of anxiousness, inability to control one's thoughts, and the need to decompress is not uncommon for people to experience during a time like this. In an effort to provide resources and support for Angelinos surrounding mental health, the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health has partnered with Headspace to offer subscriptions free of charge to residents of Los Angeles County. Headspace is a global leader in mindfulness and meditation that provides resources through its online website or mobile applications. The free subscription allows its users to access sleep and movement exercises, meditations, courses of themed meditations on how to handle stress, and others. Those interested in this free subscription can sign up today in their website at www.headspace.com/LA County. Other resources available to Angelinos is the 24/7 access line that serves as a main line and entry point to the Los Angeles Department of Mental Health Services. Resources and support the access line staff can provide are mental health assessments and screening, crisis counseling, mobilizing field response teams, referral to service providers, and linkages to other resources. Individuals interested in these resources can call 1-800-854-7771. In North Hills, California, Pearl Rogacion, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Appreciate it, Pearl. So as you mentioned, mental health is essential, especially in a time like this. What are you doing to maintain a healthy mental attitude?
Well, Ken, I am a wife and a mother of two very active young boys, and keeping my family mentally and emotionally fit continues even when the rest of the world seems to come to a stop. So spending quality time with my family is very important to me. So like the other day, I played with my kids, we played basketball, which made them very happy.
Oh, well, I mean, basketball will uplift any spirit, I feel. Appreciate it, Pearl. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for the SoCal update. Now over to NorCal in San Francisco. Bay Area counties begin phase 2 of reopening California. In South San Francisco, we have Eagle News correspondent Rachel Martin. More.
Thanks, Ken. So last Friday, angry and upset and frustrated protesters rallied at the California state's capital, pushing for the reopening of California. The protest, however, garnered some backlash and of disappointment due to the fact that most, if not all in attendance, ignored social distancing guidelines and neglected to wear personal protective equipment. This past weekend, California Governor Gavin Newsom mentioned going into phase 2 as early as May 8th. This would lighten shelter-in-place guidelines, allowing for some non-essential businesses to reopen. These new guidelines would also allow some outdoor activities with restrictions. Governor Newsom stated that on Thursday, May 7, the guidelines would be released to the public. And he also announced, and we quote, "As early as the end of this week, you will have the capacity to open for pickup." Among those types of businesses are the following: clothing, bookstores, toys, sporting goods stores, and florists. These are good signs for California, signifying that the local governments believe that it is safe enough and that the coronavirus has been contained well enough that we can begin to move forward with the 4-phase plan. In San Francisco, California, Rachel Ann Martin, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Appreciate it, Rachel. So, I mean, May 8th is literally later this week, and May 7th with the plan, that's only a couple days away. What's a general atmosphere of the public there in regards to the shelter in place that's about to potentially be lifted?
Well, in San Francisco and the nearby areas, you can tell that people want to get back to being outside and others want to get back to work. The rates of unemployment are taking a toll on local businesses and livelihoods, so there's a definite need to get that sorted out as soon as possible. Also, warmer weather is rolling in, so that's been an increasing pull to being outdoors. However, we can still see that the people are abiding by the guidelines put into place, especially in regards to wearing protective face coverings in populated areas and when entering establishments. Stores are also doing their part in limiting the number of people inside their locations.
So two things. One, warm weather in San Francisco is still like 30 degrees, so that's kind of cheating. And number two, tomorrow Cinco de Mayo / Taco Tuesday. That's a California holiday. What are the plans of the San Francisco people?
I can't personally speak for the whole city, but as far as myself, make your tacos at home. A lot of local stores that cater to the Hispanic community do have a bunch of awesome supplies that you can get. So if you want to be safe, feel free to head over there and pick up some things, ingredients, and head back home and have yourself your own Taco Tuesday.
We'll be celebrating here in Maryland. Appreciate it, Rachel. Thank you so much. Up next, another way to bake red velvet crinkle cookies by one of our WDC friends. Eagle News will return shortly. Stay with us.
Says the best defense is still containment.
We are in uncharted territory.
I told you 450. If I want to 100%. Consumption
Welcome back. You're watching the EBC International coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Ken Cruz in Maryland. It's time for Food Talk, my favorite. EBC friend Nicole Adeline Padilla invites us to her kitchen in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, as she shares with us another way to bake these mouth-watering red velvet crinkle cookies. Take a look.
Hello from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I'm Nicole Adeline Padilla, and today we will make the classic red velvet crinkle cookies.
For this recipe, you will need powdered sugar, white or brown sugar, butter, unsweetened cocoa powder, baking powder, flour, eggs, pure vanilla extract, red food coloring, and salt. Now that we have all our ingredients, we can now begin. In a bowl, add flour, unsweetened cocoa powder, baking powder, and salt. Then mix your dry ingredients together. On a separate bowl, add butter, sugar, and 1 egg. Then mix your wet ingredients together. After mixing, add your pure vanilla extract and red food coloring. Then completely mix your wet ingredients together. After our wet ingredients are ready, we will now mix it with our dry ingredients. While mixing, make sure to thoroughly combine the wet and dry ingredients. Then cover dough and chill for at least 4 hours in order to prevent spreading when we bake our cookies. Preheat oven to 350 degrees. Line your tray with parchment paper or coat it with cooking spray or butter to prevent the cookies from sticking. Then we will now roll the dough into balls. Then coat each ball in confectioner's sugar before placing it onto our prepared tray. Bake in preheated oven for 10 to 12 minutes. After 10 to 12 minutes, allow the cookies to cool down before transferring to a plate of choice. And there you have it, red velvet crinkle cookies that have an irresistible brownie textured center with a crunch of cookie on the outside.
I hope you enjoyed this recipe for red velvet crinkles. From Baton Rouge, Louisiana, I'm Nicole Adeline Padilla, Eagle News. We live in interesting and delicious times. Back to you in the studios.
Well, I appreciate the recipe, Nicole. I think I'll do that recipe later this week. Might even change it to ube crinkle cookies and add some Nutella in there. We'll see. Appreciate the recipe. Eagle Broadcasting Corporation invites you to our 52nd anniversary event, Enjoy Music Beyond the Crisis. It's an online concert that's streamed in the last 2 Sundays and will happen again on May 10th and the 17th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Philippine time. It's an e-concert for a cause streamed on all ABC social media channels to help our frontliners, healthcare workers, and communities affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. A few reminders before we end today. Wash your hands often with soap and water. Cover your mouth and nose if sneezing or coughing. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Avoid contact with sick people. If you're sick, stay home and call your healthcare provider. Practice social distancing. Keep distance between yourself and others and avoid crowds. Wear a protective face covering when out in public. Let's continue to thank our frontline and essential workers with a round of applause. We appreciate you. That's it for today's EBC International coverage of the coronavirus pandemic North America edition. Thank you for joining us. I'm Ken Cruz. We live in interesting times.